Welcome back to another episode of the D-League. Today, episode 21, and today Bilal and we will be talking about massively multiplayer online role-playing games, also known as MMORPGs. And if you don't know what is an MMORPG, it's pretty much a big world role-playing game that's fixed by the developer, and you create your character, and then you're put into that world, and kind of the main goal is exploring and taking and completing quests, and so it's pretty much an open world role-playing game with character creation. So, well, you have set non-playable characters. So, for example, maybe a blacksmith where you can buy weapons. But else, you can customize your characters in MMO, so you can create a very unique character. So you have one world, and all players are playing in that one world. Maybe you have different sections, so you start at a different point in that world, but it's a shared territory or like map. And that way, well, you can meet up with everyone depending if they're a friend or foe. And that's pretty much how an MMORPG plays like. I guess when we talk about MMORPGs as a player, I guess that's also the main point about the game, right, Bilal? When you think about an MMO as a player, what kind of mechanics, or like when you start the game, what do you expect? How would you spend your time in an MMORPG?
So what I expect when I hear MMORPG is obviously any RPG is just a game where you play it, and you keep playing it, and you kind of take a role and then progress as that role, and get better stuff or better stats, or whatever, maybe boring progression like higher damage, any sort of progression. And then the MMO aspect obviously is that you're doing this alongside lots and lots of players, so you kind of have the progression aspect with the social aspect as the both two biggest parts of an MMORPG, I think.
Yeah, I think when it comes to MMORPGs, maybe when you start out as a new player, then like the social aspect is very foreign to you, I think, because you just think, okay, why should I talk to people? Because nobody's just gonna hand you over weapons for free, maybe. Except if you play a girl character, of course. But in an MMORPG, I guess as a complete beginner, you just play like a normal RPG, right? Where you create your character, which can take like 2 weeks if you want to make it perfect in today's MMORPGs. There's so much stuff to customize today. That, well, you just want to create a character that you really like, where maybe it's realistic, or maybe you say, yeah, I'm a guy, I want to play a female character that looks like my ideal image or something. Or maybe you are just a big troll and you like creating a really fat character or something. So then you start the game, and I guess in every MMORPG, you start in like the beginning city, where all the kind of newbies start. Maybe it depends on like the role. So if you have a medieval themed RPG, then maybe if you select knight as your class, then you start in a different city or town than a mage, for example. Mm-hmm. But that way you kind of know probably everyone around you is either a new player or maybe a mage or a knight, and then you just go outside of the city because you have no money and you start slaying monsters to get items and some resources like money or maybe items to craft stuff, and gain experience, of course, to level up. I mean, that's like a basic mechanic in an RPG, that you kill stuff, you kill monsters to gain experience, and then you level up. Like you said, you upgrade your stats of your character, so you can make it unique through stats as well. And then, of course, through a skill tree, of course, the mage and a knight would have different skills that they can use. And so you're getting stronger by getting more money to buy new equipment, but also by leveling up and getting more health through your stats, or your spells do more damage because it's a level 5 ice storm instead of level 1.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like I think the beginning of an MMORPG, where it's pretty much grinding, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, where you said about you start out with like not really doing much social stuff. I think another big reason for that is all the modern MMOs have a kind of like storyline built in them now. So they'll have the beginning will give you like a large kind of experience because I want to attract players to stay in it. So the beginning is really actiony. It was like that in Vindictus and Elder Scrolls Online, and I mean even RuneScape now has that. And there was one more I wanted to mention, but the Black Desert Online. So I mean, there's kind of a cinematic in the beginning that's kind of makes it an attractive single player experience at the beginning, and so you don't really need to do anything social. And sometimes you can't at all until you finish the beginning section or whatever, and then it forces you to actually play the regular game until you get to the next part of the storyline. For example, at least in the case of Elder Scrolls Online, you would have to like level up to factors of 10 to do the next part of the story.
Okay, I see. Well, I just know about the old MMORPGs, like Ragnarok Online, where you just start, like it gives you a short tutorial, then spawns you in the normal world, and you have no clue where to go. So yeah, maybe you ask people for help, kind of what to do. But when I started out, at least it was more trying to level up, get items, and then fight stronger monsters. And I think that's also kind of how like the game progresses for you. As a player. You start out with a weak character, so you can only kill weak monsters, and then as you level up, you get to explore more of the game world. So you are kind of restricted in your freedom when you start the game. At least that's my opinion how most MMORPGs work. That like to be able to explore the whole game world and travel everywhere, you must invest time into the game, so your character is actually strong enough to be able to survive everywhere. Because if you are a level 10 knight and then you stumble upon like a level 95 hippogriff or something, then maybe it one hit kills you, and yeah, that's no fun.
Yeah.
So, or you don't stand a chance in that fight. So the regions of the map with the strong monsters are pretty much off limit for you at the start of the game.
Yeah, and that can be either annoying or kind of a fun aspect, because the concept of having to progress to actually reach the next parts is like normal in kind of any game, like any single player game or any RPG. Like, I mean, like Nier Automata, for example, you'd need to do something before getting to certain areas, and that's just a single player RPG. But like in an MMO, oftentimes they'll just hide behind a leveling system. So it can either have a system where you actually do something fun to get to the next part, or they can just tell you go grind and then get to the next part. And if they just tell you to grind, then obviously veteran like MMO players will actually do it, but regular players will think, well, this is just shitty design and I don't want to play it anymore. So it really depends on like how well that part of the game is implemented for whether that's a good experience or a bad one, I think, in terms of design.
Yeah, I think the another point is that maybe if you are, let's say, level 17 and you are in an area that's very difficult for you to get through or fight the monsters, then you have more of an incentive to team up with other people.
Yeah.
So maybe you cannot do it alone, but if you have you play the knight character, and then you tank for the mage in your team, and then maybe you have a healer, so you don't die at least. So you can kind of tank and you get healed, and the mage does the damage. Kind of. So that way, as a team, maybe for you alone it's too difficult, or the monsters are too strong. But as a team, you can get through that section, and maybe I think that's one thing as a more let's say experienced player, is it's something you enjoy about the game, because like the whole point of an MMORPG is that you are in this world with 10,000s of players, and so it would be kind of against the point of the genre to play alone, right?
Yeah, I think. Do you mean in general terms of playing alone at all, or otherwise?
Yeah, I mean that you just like keep playing yourself alone.
Yeah, actually,
for a long time.
Yeah, I think it can actually. That's a big factor as to why people will just quit an MMO, is because they'll play like alone for a while, and they'll be like, well, this is kind of like a bad single player game, right? Because a lot of MMOs don't have amazing gameplay, but they have the kind of fun aspect of progression and social. And so if there's for some reason your inability to play with friends, which we'll get to in a second, then I mean, yeah, it can just be boring in my opinion, unless it's, I don't know, really good gameplay. Like I think Vindictus had very fun gameplay, so like playing alone could be fun, but it can get boring after a while, especially when the bosses are like very, very, very hard, and and you don't have the ability to play with others. And so I think in terms of people getting stuck playing alone, that's actually a pretty big problem, because when you get the level gap between your friends, then it's difficult to play the same stuff together. And so you'd either need to wait or play alone if you actually want to play the game, and then that's like more boring than playing with your other friend who I don't know, maybe didn't have the same amount of time to play it as you.
Well, the good thing about teaming up is that when you kill monsters, the experience is shared. I think in most games. So if you are behind in levels and you go into an area with your friends that are on a higher character level, they can kill the stronger monsters. So maybe you level up more quickly than playing on your own, and that way you can kind of catch up a bit with the other players. So at least that's my experience from MMOs. That if you have friends that help you get stronger, then that can happen really quickly. That you reach the higher character levels.
Yeah, as you can boost people, but a lot of people, I mean, like, I think that's pretty boring because it's like, well, first off, grinding in general is not great, in my opinion. But if there's like fun battles or some fun quests that you have to do, and then you play with somebody higher level who can just destroy the boss or whatever to get you to a higher level, then, well, that part of the game felt pointless because you didn't have to do anything. But yeah, it's definitely possible to boost, and it will work. Like, you'll get levels faster than the guy with the higher level in most MMOs. So yeah, that's a possible solution if you don't get bored doing that.
Yeah. So like when we talk about boosting, then maybe our listeners will think, wait, you could just give your friend a super strong weapon and then he's strong, right? But I know that a lot of RPGs and MMORPGs are limiting your weapon selection.
Yeah.
Where they say, no, you must be level 50 to use this sword, or you must be level 50 and you must have 100 strength to use it. So that way, let's imagine we play together and I want to give you a weapon. Maybe you're the mage in our team, and I got this stuff and I don't need it as a knight, so I want to give it to you. But then you see, oh shit, it's level 20 and up, but you're just level 12. So yeah, tough luck. That way, kind of the developers tell you, no, you cannot kind of catch up that quickly. You must keep using your weak weapon, so you kill the weaker monsters first.
Yeah, that can be annoying as well. But yeah, again, progression, balance.
Yeah, balance. Yeah, so I guess that's kind of like the start. We talked about the start, right? You start with your character, then you get new items, you level up, maybe you team up, and I mean, with an MMORPG, it's not like you kill the end boss and then the game is over, right? Or nobody kind of tells you the goal of the game where it says, destroy the tower at the other end of the world and you win.
Yeah.
That's not how it works, and I guess that's also something how the game kind of progresses. Like in a normal game, you would expect beginning and end, but in an MMORPG, like the span between beginning and end is either very, very, very long, or there is no end to the game. And so, well, you start out and you get stronger, and then you fight stronger monsters, and you get more, can kind of experience more of the world. And I mean, I think newer games also have this, like maybe something like a companion system, or like World of Warcraft with the kind of, well, the animals you can ride, like let's say a horse or a tiger or a dragon to fly around. And I know that's level capped as well, so before you can use your what is it, your pet, then you have to grind for hours and hours first. So kind of like the game throws stuff at you as kind of what is it? Not it's an incentive, but also it is huh?
A restriction?
No, not restriction. I mean it something positive, like it
Like a reward.
Huh?
Is it like a reward?
Yeah, exactly. A reward. Sorry, I didn't. I couldn't remember the word. Yeah, so like the main thing why you keep playing is that you get rewarded for playing the game. At least that's also my experience with playing Ragnarok Online, where you don't have a class first and you need to get to job level 10, and then you can select the job, so something like a thief or mage or knight, and then it resets your job level because you get your new skill tree, but you keep the character level. So it's kind of like you grind, then you select a job, then you grind to level up your job, so you get stronger, and then knights, for example, they get something also like a pet they can ride, like a chocobo in Final Fantasy, something like that. And yeah, so then you have like special events in the game. I mean, for example, a Halloween special or a Christmas special with special gear as well. So it kind of like the game wants to play again for specific seasons as well. And I think that's why you keep playing.
Yeah.
Not just friends, but also like the game world kind of rewards you for keeping playing.
Yeah, I mean, they'll have progression, and then they'll even, like, the game itself will also progress the world. So like new seasons will get released and more content. In the case of Vindictus, like a new season will come out, and then the level cap will go up. So and it was pretty low at the beginning because I played Vindictus like when it was in beta, I think. And that game, I think the level cap started at 42. And so it was pretty reachable, but it was kind of hard because, like, in Vindictus, the quests were kind of how you got XP. Like, if you did a dungeon, it was you wouldn't get that much XP, so like grinding was kind of slow. But there were often like a lot of quests to kind of get you like 75% of the way to the level cap, and then like you'd kind of have to grind the rest of the way, which was boring. But the gameplay was fun, so yeah.
Isn't it like the same for World of Warcraft, where they started at, I think, level 60, and now it's up to 130?
Yeah, I've heard something like that. I wouldn't I haven't played it, but
yeah. And in case of World of Warcraft, when you buy a new expansion, you get like a level booster to the cap of the previous edition. So you can just boost your character to level 120 right away. Saves you a lot of grinding in that case. Korean MMORPGs are not that nice to you, I think.
Yeah.
which is like I guess. No. Before we talk about games or examples, let's talk about the end game. So, the mid game would probably be find a guild or clan and team up to fight bosses or dungeons that are for like medium leveled clans or guilds. So, what does the end game actually look like?
Well, it can either be you being level capped, standing around doing nothing while people look at you in awe of your amazing level, or you can. I mean, you can kind of. It really depends on like what the game leaves out there for you. So I mean, like you could just go and replay like old stuff, or if there's if there's more stuff to achieve, you could also go and do that, or you can just do PvP. So, like, in the case of like Vindictus or ESO, you could technically just keep pursuing like the best weapon because it's not easy to get them, or while you're doing that, which I mean, probably most players are going to be doing that, getting the best weapon, armor, and also engaging in PvP a lot, I think. I know in Vindictus the PvP is really unpopulated, so people aren't doing that much. But in ESO, like there's the whole capturing in 3 factions PvP system in Cyrodiil, which is pretty cool, but kind of hard because when you get to level 50, which is also called veteran rank 1, like you have to get to veteran rank 14, I think was the max when I last played. And I don't remember how hard it was to up your veteran rank, but I remember it was pretty difficult. So yeah, I mean, you kind of just pursue like getting the best stuff in PvP in my case. There's also, in Vindictus, there used to be this mode called Gauntlet where it would be a series of fighting every boss in an area. So like one of the areas was Ruins of Sanctity. So like if you were to do the Ruins of Sanctity Gauntlet, you'd fight all the bosses that were in all the missions in that area, in like whatever order. Like say 2 of them will spawn at the beginning, you kill them both, then like 4 different ones will spawn together, and then like you'll fight a raid boss at the end, for example. So yeah, I mean, whatever events the game leaves for you are kind of what you're doing, I think, at the end.
Okay, yeah, I see. I guess most games throw super difficult bosses at you, and you mentioned raids. Could you quickly explain what a raid actually is?
Well, I'm not well versed in the entire world of MMOs, but I know that in Vindictus the raids were giant bosses where you would go in with, like, depending on the boss, it was like 8 to like I think 12 players, depending on how big the raid was. So like the first one was a giant like polar bear, and so you'd start a party and then 7 people would join, so then you'd have a party of 8 and then you'd all just fight the boss together. And since you're playing publicly, it tended to be a shitstorm where like people would just keep getting knocked down and you'd have to keep reviving people. But basically the raids were just really hard bosses to fight, and then you could do some special thing, like for example, if you hit the polar bear's eye with throwing spears, then he could drop a special item for you to craft stuff with. And then there's also just low chances of certain drops to get from the bosses as well.
Yeah, I guess like when you do raids, like you said, it's about killing difficult bosses together, and they drop rare items that maybe just that boss drops, and I guess as a player, the player experience is also very I get, let's say it's very much forged by drop rates of items. Like you said, some people keep playing to find the perfect gear, and I know that some games have, let's say, you can equip diamonds in your sword or your equipment, and they have a super rare drop rate. So maybe it's 10,000th percent chance to drop. So to get one, like 100% to just get one, if it's 1/10,000th of a chance, then you would need to kill that enemy 10,000 times.
Yeah.
And if it's a super difficult boss, then oh my god, like you said, you needed to raid with 8 to 12 people, and I know that in other MMOs the groups are even bigger because the bosses are even stronger or have even more HP. It can take a very long time to get the item that you want. I guess if you understand the game, then you know what you are looking for to get good equipment or to power up your equipment. And I don't know if it's frustrating or if people actually like it that stuff is so rare. But well, personally for me, it would be too much of a time sink to keep killing one enemy over and over and over and over and over again for 10,000 times or 15,000 times. That's not my favorite gameplay aspect about MMOs. But I guess if you get that special diamond, then as a player you will be very, very happy. And if you don't need it, then maybe you can sell it online because people actually pay money to buy very rare MMORPG items so they don't have to grind for hours and hours.
Yeah, I think it's one of the it's a reason why I guess MMOs are kind of a controversial genre, because they can kind of fundamentally be flawed in that, like, if a drop rate is too low, like, then, well, you have to spend too much time on it, which, I mean, time is more important than pretty much anything else, you could argue. And so, if the amount of time that you need to do something is not balanced, well, then you kind of have to waste your entire life on an MMO to get all the best stuff. There's also the fact that if the item is only dropped by one boss and then you just keep doing the same boss over and over again, well, that's not fun. It's kind of boring, but you're doing it it's just work, right? Games are kind of work, but they're fun work in terms of solving some problem. But in an MMO, it can become tedious.
Yeah, it would be you know the solution and you try to kind of tell the game the solution, but it won't accept it until you enter it for 10,000 times, let's say.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, like you said, the game, if the drop rate is too low, maybe the game makes you stuck at one point where you just get upset to be stuck for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And maybe let's talk about some examples now that we talked about the beginning and the mid, let's say the timeline of playing an MMORPG.
Yeah.
what would you say like are what first? Have you played a lot of MMORPGs? Because I didn't.
I played a fair amount. I mean, I played like I guess way back in the day there was RuneScape, then Two Moons, then I mean I don't remember what else. Then I went on like in the more recent there was Vindictus, Elder Scrolls Online. I really briefly played Black Desert Online because I just never got to getting into it. Yeah, those are most of the ones I tried, I think.
Okay.
There's some small
which one did you like the most then? And maybe
The
what
MMO
did you like about the game?
Okay, the MMO I played most was Vindictus, and that one's a Korean one with like an NA translation, and it's the Korean version is called Mabinogi Heroes anyway. But it's what I liked about it was one, it had a story, so the story is kind of weird and like it goes in circles, like a strange anime story, but it's one that you can follow, and it also has like good gameplay. Like it's hack and slash, but it actually takes skill and is very difficult to play with against certain bosses. Like if you can technically solo a raid boss, but you kind of spend all of your time dashing and dodging it, and then like maybe you get in one light attack, right? so you dodge and then light attack, dodge and light attack if you really want to solo a raid boss. But so what's cool about it is that kind of thing is possible if you're skilled enough, but it's very difficult to do, and it's not like pressing like in a game like World of Warcraft or ESO. You kind of spam your abilities in the correct order, right? Like you're not exactly face rolling your keyboard, but you do press like your spells in order, and it's like targeted spells without really that much skill involved. It's more about thinking, whereas in Vindictus it's like fast paced and reaction times, so you actually have to be skilled, and it looks and it feels a lot more fun in my opinion. That it's like a kind of action game. But yeah, so those are the main reasons I liked it. I also like the Gauntlet a lot, which they removed, so I don't really play it much anymore. And then those are the main reasons actually.
Okay, yeah, it kind of reminds me of Monster Hunter, where
it's similar.
Enemies have set patterns, or where they have patterns of attack. So it's not about, like you said, just pressing buttons to spam spells, but you kind of, if you encounter a new, let's say, boss enemy, then as a player you kind of first see which attacks the boss is doing and in which order, or what the pattern is, or maybe you get close and then the boss starts to bite instead of breathing fire. And so you kind of learn the weaknesses of the boss, and then you exploit them, and I guess that gives the game some depth when fighting bosses. Like you said in Vindictus, it's not about just standing there and holding the left mouse button to attack, but you kind of have to react to what the enemy is doing. So you cannot like AFK your brain to win fights.
That's pretty much like why it's pretty fun. Honestly, it was the best MMO experience I've had so far. But I think Black Desert was supposed to be a lot like it. I think the game that I played that's not an MMO that's most similar to Vindictus, I think, is Nier Automata. It kind of has, because they're both like hack and slash, but they're like skill based, not just face rolled keyboard hack and slash. So there's like dodging at the appropriate times and like recognizing the pattern of what your enemy's gonna do, and then like responding appropriately and that kind of thing. So
Yeah, I guess that's a trap that maybe a lot of MMOs fall into, like the this grind fest, this really like monotone grind fest.
yeah,
Where you just attack and attack, because maybe if you try to dodge, then you just get hit. So it doesn't make sense to dodge. At least, well, I guess the RPG, the MMO RPG I played the most was Ragnarok Online, which has been 10 years ago. So it would be the first Ragnarok Online, which is also Korean. Surprise. And for me, like the reason why I liked the game was actually the design. It was a 2D sprites, but in a 3D world. So, and it was very like anime manga style. So I liked the design, and also the music was very fitting or pretty good. At least I enjoyed the music as well, so it kind of fit the atmosphere of the towns, or like the forests or deserts, or wherever you are. And yeah, the one thing I didn't actually like about the game is that it was pretty grindy. I think maybe somebody that invested more time into the game can correct me in the comments, but for me it felt like you could run from monsters, yeah, but if you fought them, and so if you're a melee character and you fight the monster, and then you see, oh shit, I'm low on HP, better run than to die, then you still would get hit at least once. So it was like, okay, yeah. If you are low on HP and you try to run, then you run, and then you get hit, and then you still die. So, yeah, in that case, I mostly played the thief character, and the main thing about that class was that they have a very high dodge rate, and they multi-hit with attacks, and so it was pretty much holding the left mouse buttons and hoping that you had so high agility that you would dodge pretty much every attack, and yeah, then you just kind of chip down the monster.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound very exciting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the experience gain was on the official server was also pretty slow. So you would have to kind of kill the monsters that fit your level to keep actually leveling up, and just to kind of give an example of how low the rates were, is that player service, so servers hosted by random guys online. They set the EXP and drop rate for items to things like 500 times or 1000 times the regular EXP gain or drop rate. So yeah.
Yeah.
If you want to get good equipment, or if for me to reach the job level to change classes, it took me 2 weeks. And yeah, so, and then you kind of start the game. So yeah, it takes ages.
Yeah.
But the presentation was very good, so I still like the game from a design point of view.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think MMOs in general are kind of notorious for like mostly the time sink from grinding, and then like repetitive combat where you kind of base roll your keyboard, and then and there was like one more that we talked about. I don't remember right now, but that's fine. I mean, those are the main two like kind of annoying things. But
yeah, I think like for some players just like using the character creation tool.
Yeah.
At least, I think Black Desert Online has a very detailed character creation.
Yeah, it's very good.
What is it? Mechanic or system?
System, yeah.
Yeah, and so you can spend a lot of time just creating a character that maybe you you just create to look at.
Yeah.
And let's switch to the developer point of view, and you talked about like the like that MMORPGs really often are slow paced and grindy, and you get stuck and you need to level up first before you can continue. And I guess there's this thing called subscription fee that is maybe something that or maybe one of the reasons why as a developer you want to keep people playing the game and maybe not reaching level 99 in 1 week.
Yeah.
So or max out their level in a week, because if you make them play for a year to reach it, then that sweet subscription fee, instead of 1 week, you get it for 1 year.
Yeah, it depends on. I mean, there's free to play and then there's subscription fees. I mean, like ESO got rid of its subscription fee. You can choose to use it, but all it does is give you. It's kind of like a season pass, but you can just like buy the game and play it free now, like without, or not free, but you know what I mean, pay once, and then there's like other games that kind of just go with a free to play system, like with all the different microtransactions. Like Vindictus will just have tons and tons of aesthetic stuff, and then there's also some pay to like increase your XP gain. Sometimes you can buy stuff that'll increase your damage or increase the loot drops. I don't mind really the EXP boosts, but I think that the mechanic of letting you buy damage or like stat boosters is kind of stupid, because it's like fundamentally kind of pay to win, but it's not as annoying in Vindictus as it is in like some sort of PvP game, whereas because like Vindictus is co-op, so you're fighting like PvE, so if somebody has OP shit, then it's like, well, whatever, this match they have OP shit because they paid for it, but you know, the next match will just be me playing honestly. So yeah, I think yeah, it really depends on. I mean, like, yeah, people always do want you to keep playing. So like technically, you have to increase the amount of grinding you need. Then the subscription fee will get them paid. But there's also the concern if you make it too long, then well, people just quit. So yeah,
I guess most devs, like you said, you want to keep people continuing playing, so you add more regions or maybe a new class and up the level cap. And yeah, that's also some way where maybe you sell it as an expansion for money, or well, you just make people keep playing that are at the end game of the game, where they reach the level cap, and so they can grind again to reach the level cap again. I know that for MMORPGs like World of Warcraft or even Ragnarok, they had kind of like a competition who reaches the level cap first or how quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they have like a reset, so everyone is level 1 or like a new expansion, and then they look for who reaches the level cap first. And yeah,
That's one way to go
so
through
that's kind of PvE ladder, like who's the fastest grinder. But let's talk about, like, from a dev perspective, how would you start creating an MMORPG? And maybe at the end we can kind of talk about if it actually makes sense. Maybe for a small studio to do to create an MMO.
Yeah.
So what as a developer, how would you start creating an MMORPG?
If I were to make one, I definitely would not do it alone. So I would first pursue like anybody who wanted to start a project together. And I'd make sure that I'd actually have, like, say, a programmer and an artist are pretty much the two important things, right? A 3D artist, that is, and then or a 2D, I guess, if you're making a 2D MMO, like I don't know, MapleStory. Anyway, but so a programmer and an artist. So whichever one that you are, find the other one, and then together you would need to do tons and tons of research, right? So, I mean, multiplayer is one of the hardest things in game development already, and then you have MMO, like massively multiplayer. Now you need to worry about like managing who's where, and I don't know, for example, like in Vindictus or Elite Dangerous, you'll have the system where they're kind of like channels, so you'll only see an amount of players in your channel in that area, but they're like, say there are multiple different channels, like, which are kind of like alternate dimensions, right? Where other players are going to be that you won't see because they're just not in your channel. So I mean, stuff like you need to worry about multiplayer features like that, like realms, basically, where you'll actually be able to connect with other players. And then there's the whole part of the game where, I mean, creatures and everything are kind of run by a master server, right? So, like, where they're going to move next, like, where they're gonna, like, who they're gonna attack, and when a player is attacking them, you need to interact with like that specific player. So I mean, you need to do basically research on like how to make an MMO. You definitely want to start with the right tools. Like, you don't want to go in without, I guess, like engines or frameworks. I don't know of any MMOs that are made with Unity or Unreal. I know that Elder Scrolls Online was made with something called the Hero Engine, and I don't know much about that. So I mean, I would like I said, you definitely want to do research on like what the right tools to start with are. And then, like, ultimately, if you can use something that has all the MMO technicals laid out for you, then definitely use that, because if you're a two-man team, then it's very difficult to make one in the first place, and if you're making one like from scratch completely, then it's kind of just a silly idea. So yeah, definitely use the tools that are laid out for you, and then do the research, and then you plan it out, like with some sort of game plan, and like how long you want to take, and what minimal features you want to have. And then, then you would have to worry about when you're going to do testing, like alpha, beta, maybe even before alpha, like in dev and work in progress, stuff like that. And then once you have like all those plans laid out, you just kind of start programming, and you start making art, and then I guess you'd make a prototype, and then, standard game development process from there on.
Yeah, I see. So, what do you think when it comes to an MMORPG? is actually the most important thing. Is it like the story? Is it the fighting system? Is it not glitching into the ground and falling off of the world, or is it like the design? Let's say, for example, uh, maybe you have very detailed structures or environment. What do you think would be important or the most important?
Well, in general, I try not to worry about like what the most important thing is, because it kind of, well, to me, it kind of feels like a pointless argument, because you can, I mean, you kind of just will say, I want all these features and I want them to be good, and then you make them correctly with the plan. That's kind of an objective plan of what you want done. But I mean, personally, as a player, like my favorite obviously is the combat system. So like I might think, well, if there's a bad combat system or a boring combat system, I just flat out won't play the game. But I mean, like, you can say that about multiple things, even if the combat system is your favorite. Like, if I'm glitching to the ground, I'm not going to play it. If I'm, if I don't know, maybe if there's no multiplayer, if there's a bad multiplayer system, like I can only see like two other guys in the same area, then I don't know, like maybe I just won't play it. Like so there's a lot of,
because it doesn't feel MMO.
Yeah. if I cared that much about the MMO aspect, that is. I don't know if I would literally not play it if that was the case. I mean, like if you think about No Man's Sky, you literally couldn't see other players, like and like nobody would play that, for example.
It's not an MMO, they said. It's single player. The chances are very low to see somebody because you just don't see them.
yeah. But yeah, if the game is multiplayer and you can't see the other players, well, it's kind of silly. Unless you're playing screen cheat, for example, but whatever.
I guess also one important thing to keep in mind is that when you design the game or you create the graphics, or maybe the use the engine to render stuff, that the game doesn't stutter if there is like 2 or 3 monsters and 10 characters, like 10 players on your screen, because if it stutters and like you turn around, then suddenly the game just starts to lag. I think that also ruins the experience. You want a smooth experience where you kind of can. Well, I mean, the thing about MMORPGs is that it's also something of like putting yourself in that game world, and it kind of just breaks this immersion if it starts to stutter, or you feel really frustrated if you fight, let's say, 3 wolves and they attack at the same time, and then the game just drops the frame rate from 60 to 15 because like the grass is moving and the wolves are moving, and the game just can't handle it.
That's definitely very annoying. Like if the game is not runnable, then you don't really play it. Actually, that was when Planetside 2 came out, which is I don't want to go too much into it because Planetside 2 is more of an MMO FPS where like the only real progression is getting certifications to buy certain weapons. But in that game, actually there are some other bonuses I think you can get. But anyway, that game, like when it came out, had very bad performance, so a lot of players could not run it. And even if you could run it, like I wouldn't want to play a game at 30 FPS personally. Like I find that to be annoying, or at least an FPS. But so yeah, that's an example of something with bad performance.
Yeah, for me, it's the same. I mean, the game can be as beautiful as it gets. If it stutters, then gameplay is king, at least for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Also, something like monster variety. I mean, in an MMO, if you just keep killing wolves and then bigger wolves and wolves with 2 heads and wolves with 3 tails and
Yeah.
why always wolves? Maybe put in a bear or a deer or a rabbit.
Yeah.
Killer rabbits. Something like that. That at least have some variety, or maybe something completely different. Like you have wolves, and then you have cyborgs, and then you have huge slimes that are not explained where they come from. But
Yeah.
So
don't be repetitive. Yeah.
Else about an MMO. Is there anything else that you would kind of really like? I guess maybe very different classes. So maybe if you're tired of playing a mage, then you play a knight and it plays completely different, or maybe something like a barbarian, or maybe like you know the standard fantasy roles. Maybe you can create something unique that is not a thief and not another rogue and not another mage. Maybe
Yeah. Where's the
class?
Where's the dystopian android MMO? I feel like I should just say this every episode. Where's the insert genre here? Android or dystopian android.
You have the choice of playing knight, mage, thief, and dystopian android. What?
Exactly.
One thing that would be actually cool is being able to play like the monsters instead of the kind of the heroes.
They just give you an event where you choose where you can fuck with the players by playing as the creatures for some event, Halloween event.
Yeah, that would be actually pretty cool. I'm gonna patent that. So we've been talking for around an hour. Is there anything else for the dev side? I mean, you kind of make the game and put it on the server and hope it doesn't crash, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we can say 1,000 things about MMOs. I mean, they're really vast kind of area, but I mean, like ultimately, like progression, economy, like social aspect. I mean, those are like the big ones for me, and the combat, of course. But I mean, like yeah, there's so much more like small stuff you can say. But I mean, we kind of covered, in my opinion, like the process for like if you wanted to make one really, which would be difficult. I mean, like if you do make one, then bravo. And then we kind of like covered, I think, like what's important in design of a game or of an MMO, and you know, whatever else other dev stuff. So.
Yeah, I think so as well. So let's end the podcast for today. And I guess if you are interested in MMORPG, then just look online. Maybe just search for MMORPG because there are so many, and chances are high you're going to play a Korean one.
Yeah.
If you maybe you just can search for Korean RPG, Korean MMORPG, and maybe like the tropes of Korean MMOs, which is Grindfest. So yeah, that I think we like you said, we talked about pretty much what makes an MMORPG, and so yeah, that's it for today. Or is there anything that you would like to add?
Well,
at
yeah,
the end?
yeah, because you said briefly. Sorry, you just said that like look it up if you want to try one. But I think I mean, if you want to get back into MMO or play a new recent MMO, then I think in my opinion, Black Desert Online is kind of the most promising looking one right now, based on like both gameplay, like we said, character creation, and I'm saying both, actually all of the above. Those two and player counts / the combat are all kind of all those things are pretty cool looking in Black Desert, so I'd say give that a try.
All right, then that's it for today, episode 21. And next week we will be talking about regular old RPGs that are not MMO.
Yes, sir.
So that will be a bit of the same, but also very different. So look forward to our podcast next week. And I wish you a very nice week. See you next week, guys.